Alrighty, welcome back. Today is Tuesday, the 27th of July, 2021. SPY 0.5% down day today, taking a little profits or a little bit of sell-off after all-time highs test once again. Round the horn for the markets. Total dollar volume on NASDAQ today, 200 billion. Nice see, we have 248 billion total dollar volume, and the OTC markets, nice day again, 3.8 billion total dollar volume. We're seeing some more attention and traction come to those OTC markets, which is a good sight to see coming out of the summer months now too. Two trades for me today, one main short trade and then also another kind of speculative but more aggressive position sizing long trade for me today. The first chronologically trade was XELA, former runner of course. Looking at the daily here, we've had this recent little run up, just even on the daily too, looking at this thing just so choppy and hard to just play along with. This thing had news in the pre-market of strong SMB user growth, over 2 times new signups, whatever. It's good news, but I mean, it's whatever. So that came out at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. We had this little spike right away in the pre-market open, and then this is when the news came out at 4:30 time frame, a little bit of a spike and then kind of sell off fading, and I just recognized, okay, we're holding pretty well and we're kind of attacking the asks or the sellers here. At this point, screw it, I'll take a position. I've had success just buying randomly and holding the pre-market the past few days. Why not do it again? So bought 300 shares with this first buy and was right immediately, which I was like, I'm a genius, right? So I was able to ride this wave up, and then we just kind of came around this 2.9 area and just struggled along and chugga chewed, but didn't progress on any further, and it was just like faking out at different little points. 10% for me from, I think I had 267 was my entry. 10% was like 293 or 296. I forget specifically what it was. So I was looking for that to maybe, if it was coming with strength, I would have just taken off 100 and then continued to, I was looking for beyond 3, definitely, like easy. And then even waiting for market hours to see if we got some more craziness. Maybe above this 3-1 area, if we were testing any of this craziness that happened a few weeks ago. But we did not just have it in the realm today. So liquidated another 100 shares, so a third of the position size at like 290, as it was just kind of rejecting once again. He was pushing decent dollar volume today. In total, $361 million volume today, which is not anything to shake a stick at, but not what I believe it's been producing on those past few days. Yeah, the volume's not as great at what it was during these days, but still, former runner, has news, still kind of needs a first green day. Yeah, you could call this day a first green day, but this was really, look at the daily again. I mean, we could still have an awesome opportunity for a bounce, minus these, looking at the choppiness and factoring in the choppiness of this ticker, we could still be in for a first green day on this chart. So that's what the thought process that I was thinking with this one. And also the fact too of looking at how it likes to squeeze early in the morning. So instead of this, let's do, this works even well too. So like this day on that Wednesday spike, this is hour candles for each one, but like in the first hour, spike hard. So in the first hour in this one, spike hard to the upside. First one, we opportunity to spike hard to the upside, spike hard to the upside, spike hard to the upside. So that's what I was looking for, was just the quick. I wasn't looking for a true trend to the upside. So I mentioned the first green day, but that's not really what my focus was. I was just looking to take off into strength to say, hey, I'm well beyond 10%. This was a definite winner today. I wasn't going to try to nail the top by any means. Just looking to kind of take a speculative trade, and I had so much more leniency and comfort in being in this trade because of that entry too. If I was trying to play this off of that 290 level, I would have definitely gotten stopped out at the crack of VWAP. Just had to deal with the frustration as it's chopping around once again into the bell. The market open was just so stupid of what it wanted to do. Trading this again on the tick chart, I actually ended up adding size here at this point as spiked a little bit, came back to VWAP, and I thought we were holding pretty well, so I'm like, screw it. I'll add another, I think I added another 200 shares because I had 200 left. Yeah, so I added another 200 shares at this point, thinking we're going to get a break a high a day. We're going to go well beyond this little pre-market peak here. It's going to be a great trade. And then ended up just pulling back. Price action just dumped back under VWAP. So I was forced to cut there. And then we're kind of basing again, holding what I considered a higher low at the time. Like, screw it, I'll get back in again. I think it was I tried to get 200 shares at this point, and it filled me at like 8 shares. I was like, what? And I was trying to set a stop order as it was coming back up to VWAP, just set a stop right above my entry, thinking that we could just dump further at any point and protecting my entry point, just taking a small scalp at that point if it wanted to completely dump. And it filled me at 8 shares. I was like, what? And it tried to tell me that I can't short on my cash account, of course, because I was trying to short 200 shares when I only had 8. I was like, oh my gosh. That's like the first time that's ever really happened. How far of a divergence that's been of trying for 200 and I got 8 on how liquid this thing was. Over 200,000 trades on the day. That was kind of kooky to see that. But anyway, just price action just ended up rejecting at VWAP once again. I just cut those 8 shares as they were. And the trade, yes, chopped around once again. I think a few of the people in the chat were playing this move to the upside, looking for the 3 moves, scaled out a little bit here. You could have certainly played it at any of these points. I mean, in this range as well, I think it looks a little bit different. You can still see it on a minute candle chart, and it looks decent. I mean, holding higher lows in a sense here, but just so choppy. I hate wasting mental capital on this. Having an entry here was just so much more easy, of course, to hold through the stupidity. And I could take a break from looking at the chart in the level 2 and just look at the overall major trend, switch to a longer term candle chart. But then trying to think of playing this later on in the morning for the rest of the day, like an afternoon play, this ticker especially, we've just come having to play this so many times before. It's just frustrating. And it was a decent little profit. Ended up being a 2% trade after I was sizing in more on this one. So $30 win in total. Pretty nice little pad, but not a huge mover that I was looking for. I would have certainly been taken off like the rest of those 200 shares I had initially if we were crossing high a day and then walking away, even if this thing wanted to continue on spiking crazy. But just interesting to see that, yes, it did have the move. Yes, you could have read the palms here that it was coming higher, but just stupid, inconsistent, and whatever. Save my mental capital for the next one. My short for the day, DYAI. Start off with the fundamentals on this one. This is an American biotech, float of 9.3 million, reported short interest of 7%. News catalyst was technology transfer and licensing agreement with South Africa's Rubik Consortium, aiming to develop and commercialize vaccines for distribution throughout Africa. So pretty decent COVID news, not like world-changing, but definitely reliable news, to say, if you want to put it in that frame of mind. I did not realize, this ticker sounded a little familiar, but I did not realize that I traded this once actually before, for morning dump specifically. So this is May 26th. If we go back to today and look at the daily, this was today, obviously great standalone volume candle, and of course I love the downtrend overall and the overhead. May 26th was this day here, this little peak candle that did not bring in a lot of volume, which may have been the reason why it was a great fader the whole rest of the day, because the volume wasn't there. So I think I was able to get in around this second break of VWAP and then just play it to the downside. I think I was out before market open. But I kept that in the back of my head of, okay, this is formerly a great morning dump setup. I didn't know that at the time of the entry, because it was just too quick when I pulled it up to when I needed to get an entry in when it was cracking VWAP. But then as I was still in it and as it was cracking here, I knew the trend was for real. And to back it up a little bit, gosh, I kind of tricked myself again, or jinxed myself again, whatever word you want to call that playing the emotions of no way, this thing's gonna break high day again, and I gotta cut it, and just the emotional turbulence that I put myself through as it's still finding its trend after this huge peak. This was a huge peak initially too. I was looking at this as it pulled up on my scanner going, okay, it's a one green candle spiker. I'm not really going to trade it. And then I look, double take again, and it's like we had a peak of 55% in this one green candle. So I'm going, okay, yeah, that's a pretty decent opportunity to get short. So I pulled it up, wasn't ridiculous. Share borrows to get short. Maybe you could have said I was too early on the short, on the entry. I was looking at it here, kind of eyeing it and keeping my finger on the trigger. If it wanted to break this candle low, then I was definitely going to get in. But lucky enough that we were able to spike a little bit more and give myself a little bit more room to the downside. So, and you can see here on the VWAP as well too, which I used as the indicator for that entry, it was pretty inconsistent. And in all reality, it could have gone through that high of day, just a little quick perk, and I would have had to cut. And because the volatility is what this thing needed, and my stop certainly would have been hit, even though I wouldn't have placed an actual physical stop, my mental stop would have been hit if we were cracking new high of day. So it kind of looked out that we didn't get that break of the high of day, and held to my guns, held to my trade parameters that I established beforehand, and was able to ride this thing down. Took off half of the position at 10%. I got a pretty nice bottom tick, 428, I believe it was, from 476. I remember was my entry. 1,000? No, not 1,000 shares. 500 shares. Looking specifically, 400 shares I took short. So took off 200 at this point, and then pretty much taking in the May 26th chart. I was thinking, okay, I'm just waiting for $1 a share essentially from my entry for these remaining 200 shares. So I was looking at 376 as the next target, and I think I even had an order in around this point, thinking, okay, we could just dump a little bit at the market open. We were pretty far from VWAP the whole pre-market, so that may have been a little bit of an indication that there was a little bit more buying, or there should have been a little bit closer trend to that VWAP beforehand. I mean, I'm trying to key in on such little things for reasons why this thing spiked today. But of course, today's float is 9.3 million, and I actually noticed on that May 26th chart, float was 18 million. So the float has been cut in half since last month, which may have been the reason for the squeeze today. And I was lucky enough that when I get an entry and a trend is confirmed, then I 100% absolutely just almost shut the chart off. I mean, keep it in the corner just to make sure my stops aren't getting hit or it's going crazy. But I totally kind of tune out and take my emotions out of it. And especially when I hear that ding that half of my position's been filled at 10%, 100%, I'm just like zoned out of what this thing is doing the rest of the pre-market or the market open, and just setting stop orders wherever I think it could continue to go. I mean, it's really a guess at this point, or at that point, of where you think it's going to stop. Is it going to come back to the previous close or that previous little range it was in? I mean, who knows? It could just meander around the rest of the day. It could do a lot of things. But so where I was going with that was, as it comes into market open, all of a sudden I see, oh my gosh, it's halted to the upside. Are you kidding me? I saw we were getting a little bit of buying pressure coming in the first few minutes, and then I was switching over to the XELA chart. And then I look back again, and we're freaking halted to the upside, 634. And it's like opening at 460. I'm like, you gotta be absolutely kidding me. I don't think that's ever happened. That's been halted to the upside while I'm short in any of these setups. And I was very fortunate enough that we were opening with a little bit of breathing room from my initial entry, which was my risk level anyway with these remaining shares. So I just cut it right as soon as that thing opened. And I pretty much, you could say I got screwed, but because we just immediately began selling off more as it was beginning to trade a little bit more. And then we'd like spiked immediately back up once again, and then we came back down again close here. It was just choppy after that open, and glad I cut anyway, because that would have saved my so much mental fatigue and stupidity. And yeah, Michigas. That's all I have to say about it. So crazy to see this thing just short squeeze out of nowhere and halt to the upside. I was absolutely stunned to see that. I mean, maybe if you're going into the filings or trying to read all these 10Qs and 8Ks, I don't see anything blatantly specific that says this thing just has so many buyers coming in or somebody's so motivated on one side. That float, though, knowing that the float has dropped in half from May, could have been a little bit of an indication if I had realized that at the time of the trade. But I certainly would have still taken the trade 100%, even with that knowledge, because the opportunity was still there anyway. So, and of course, I look back at this in hindsight and go, you know, my sadistic, degenerate brain goes, how many of these charts have actually continued on for a real green day, like closing 10% higher than the open price? Maybe of like I want to say like 100 charts I have, maybe one, maybe. So it's, you know, this total degenerate risk averse part of me says, you just short that at the VWAP crack and you hold that puppy till close, right? Because these are crap stocks and the trend on the daily is down. This thing is going to die eventually anyway. You know, who cares about overnight borrowing fees? It's going to die anyway. You're going to be profitable, right? And I'm continually fighting myself to say that's not how you become a profitable trader. That's not the appropriate mindset to have on the long side, on the short side, on any side. And even especially for me too, I feel like it'd be so just consequential because I would just waste so much energy thinking if this thing had held like at 5 and I was still short from like 4, 6, 7, thinking, oh my gosh, I hope it opens lower. I hope it opens lower. Just not being able to sleep. Totally killing myself. But oh my gosh, I look back at this. Of course, hindsight is 20/20, and looking back at all of these of where I was cutting, it just feels like these always tend to frickin' close at way below where I was trying to exit, and it's just emotion that's playing out in the morning too. So I'm kind of denying those thoughts right now. I mean, if it's just becomes so blatant, so obvious, I may get a little degenerate and just say, for this pattern only, I'm allowed to do this, and say, I can set a crazy, crazy risk level. Okay, if this thing goes to $7, yeah, like set a stop loss. I'm definitely cutting it, but give it room to just shake out the stupidity because it's gonna die anyway. So again, I'm denying those thoughts right now, but I'm continuing to trade this pattern as I see it because the opportunity and the profit opportunity potential is there. So those are really the 2 trades I had today. Ended up $140 on the day. Awesome. Some other charts I want to go over quick. IG, mover in the after hours yesterday. News after the close of, they have a new president and chief executive officer. So holding decently, a little bit of sell-off in the pre-market, but was reclaiming fundamentals on this one. Float of 5 million, low float, plus 1% reported short interest. Bowen was also pretty hot on it too, and I think if you were checking the chat rooms, checking FinTwit, I think this was kind of heavily pumped to talk about, tweeted. And reason I want to talk about this one because I look at this kind of like a Jack number 2 or the number 7 trader that he traded some the other day too, just reading the trend that, okay, this thing is dumping pretty hard. Just read the trend for the day. If it's going to continue to test these lows, it's going to continue to push harder and fade the whole day. Nobody's going to come in and support this thing because it's all just the weak-hand bag holders. And you can be alongside their stupidity. You can profit off of their weakness. So, yeah, I'm kind of going way conceptual on that theory, but I just like to bring this chart up because I feel like this is a trade that I could potentially take in the future of going more trendy for lack of better terms, that just saying, okay, this thing's open in red and showing weakness. Just follow the trend. Stop trying to fight the trend, or just disavow that, oh, it's going red. It could just squeeze around and go crazy the rest of the day. Or it could just dump and fade the rest of the day too. Play that trend. It's been a big mover to the upside. It can be a big mover to the downside as well too. So just interesting chart that I wanted to talk about. AEI, another morning dump opportunity. Not the coolest, not the greatest. Daily isn't. It's decent. The volume wasn't great. And the just total move. Oop, not that one. This was only a peak of 21% from yesterday's trading close. 1.3 million float too, so low float are not the most A-plus box to check. Their news was they have an agreement with Puridyne to provide patented air and surface purification solutions for its e-home communities. It's whatever. It's not a biotech, again, so not an A-plus box to check on there, but profit opportunity was there. I was watching it, aware of it. I don't think it was crazy. I looked it up and there weren't any shares to short through trade zero. So couldn't have gotten short anyway because of the insanely low float, 1.3 million. But that was just another ticker with the profit opportunity. SGOC, just saw it randomly, started spiking in the close. Actually halted here a few times, one time. Don't see any news catalyst. Former runner, of course. Kind of a first green day after this more sell-off here. Not a lot of volume, though, to push that. But interesting. We'll keep it on watch. INFI, another morning dump, or not morning dump. I thought this one also was interesting. So they had, look at the daily here. Pretty hard sell-off here. Kind of like broke some of these little double bottom here, if you want to call it that. But anyway, this is American Biotech, float of 71 million, reported short interest of 6%. Quarter two earnings at 7:30 Eastern time. So we're talking, yeah, perfectly right here. Spiked hard after that news, I'm guessing. Because this is 7:30 here. This is the news drop. Spiked pretty hard, and then just immediate sell-off and dump. So then 7:30 quarter two earnings, and then 7:31 I also see here updated data from phase 2 trial in urethral cancer and phase 2 trial in triple-negative breast cancer. So I didn't even look into earnings or that trial, thinking that I can understand either of those. I'm guessing the trial did not go well. Just a huge sell-off here. Yeah, it looks like earnings were bad. Looking at this little bubble. So maybe the combination of both of those just tanked this so hard, but pretty decent bounce. I wasn't even thinking of trying to dip buy this. I was just so amazed at. Again, I've seen a few of these, but I just still kind of sit back in awe of how quickly those things move down. How fun it would have been short this thing as it's just tanking. Then just did nothing the rest of the day. Another interesting chart. And then we had some Chinese education movers. TAL, little move to the upside. I didn't even see yesterday too. That was a pretty decent move, but not from that sell-off. EDU, all of these are not insane. Like TAL was 25% to the upside. EDU, 12% day today. But they're moving and they're getting some volume, which is the key. YQ had a big spike in the morning. METX, like 14% update, but again, spiking kind of crazily here. So maybe Chinese education sector is coming back a little bit. I can't really tell you, and I don't really think I have any trading plan on that sector at this point, but I've got the watch list and the database calculated and ready to attack if that whole sector wants to start moving again for some reason. But that's all I got today. $140 update today, so love to put that cash in the bank and continue to just attack and press these morning dump setups. And I'm growing in position size on these long trades as well too. These kind of speculative, not really speculative, but just hammering. If it's got a low float and it's up, especially if it's got news, load the boat. If I'm getting up early in the pre-market as well too, I think there's a lot of opportunity if I'm not getting screwed on liquidity or taking slippage, there's a lot of opportunity too, especially like XELA was an awesome example of just how choppy it is during market hours. You can kind of avoid that a little bit by, get a better average or just get in when there is more cleaner opportunities or cleaner price action per se. But we're playing with it. It's a process, but I'm excited. Thank you guys for watching. We will catch you guys on the next one.